Hi everyone, I'm Max. Welcome to Hero Analysis. Here, we break down movies, video games, and discuss comics and everyone's favorite heroes. In this video, we'll be discussing Predator vs. Spider-Man. This is the third of 4 installments in an overarching story, that being Predator vs. Now this started with Predator vs. Wolverine, then Predator went on to fight Black Panther and Spider-Man. And then those all lead into Predator kills the Marvel Universe. And we will get to all those stories, and then when we're done, we'll put them in a compilation in the correct timeline. Our story takes place in New York City during the summer, and the heat was brutal. People are miserable, looking for any way whatsoever to cool themselves down. Now the comic explains that the heat made the city cruel, essentially saying that crime was higher than usual. We cut straight to the mangled body, and that's where we're introduced to a forensic scientist and Detective LaPearl, who is almost unfazed while she eats the ice from her cup. The forensic scientist asked if she'd seen anything like this before, to which she responds no, which, on a side note, you wouldn't really be able to tell because she's acting really calm, chewing ice cubes for seeing a mangled body for the first time. Anyways, the scientist begins to ask if it's drug-related or a stolen stash since the building was condemned. The detective explained that he was thinking far too logically, and that in her experience, people who skin others don't think logically. Although it wasn't a robbery, she explains that each of the victims is missing something. One was missing a jaw, the other a rib, and the third a finger. Almost like the killer was a trophy hunter of some sort. The detective asked the scientist why he was questioning the neighbors earlier, since it was her job to do so. When she turns around, the real forensic scientist appeared, leaving the detective wondering who she was talking to. Switching back to his costume, it's revealed Spider-Man was disguised as the forensic scientist. He rushes back to the Daily Bugle with J. Jonah Jameson on the phone, explaining that he's got a story. Jameson, furious, explains that the last time he had a story, it was a puppy parade, and pretty much goes on to tell him that if this isn't a big story, he is 5 canceled subscriptions away from being fired. Peter asks, "How about a murderer?" To which Jameson replies, "Do you have pictures?" On his way to the Bugle, Spider-Man spots a robbery. As the robbers drive off, Spider-Man tries to cut them off on the next street over. But to his surprise, kids were playing with an open fire hydrant in the middle of this road. So he swoops in, webs them up, and gets them to safety. We cut to the robbers, and the lead man starts telling everyone they split the cash and they go their own way. But when he turns around, everyone's already dead. Freaking out, he asks the killer to reveal themselves so they can work out a deal if they want a cut of the money. Suddenly, the killer emerges from the dark and rips the robber's face clean off, stabs him through the chest, and wears his face as a mask. Which, on a side note, is a really cool way to reveal the Predator. Spider-Man makes it to the warehouse that the robbers fled to, but when he gets there, the bodies are hanging just like the ones you saw earlier. So he calls Jameson back up and lets him know that, hey, it's not just a killer, it's a serial killer. At the Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson says Peter's article should be a "you should be next" tone of warning, to cause panic. But Peter disagrees. He thinks people should be aware so they can be careful and vigilant. But as they're talking, the power goes out. Seconds before the power goes out, we join MJ while she's on the subway, and suddenly it comes to a complete stop. Everyone in the subway is now in a panic, but there's one lady in particular who's screaming in terror since she's claustrophobic. So MJ goes over to comfort her and tells her to look outside the train at all the space around them, but the lady says, "Hey, I think I see something out there." MJ suggests maybe it's someone fixing the track, and so she shines her light. But to her surprise, the Predator presses his face against the glass, and he still has the robber's face on from before. Back at the Bugle again, J. Jonah Jameson wants to run the story on the website and social media, but the service towers are down. So Peter says, let's fire up the generators and print it the old-fashioned way, saying that since no one has any service and can't check the news, this is the only way to get the word out. So that's exactly what they do. Jameson and some other Bugle members go around the city telling everyone who passes by, stay safe out there because there's a serial killer on the loose. Well, one of the people who happened to grab the papers was Detective LaPearl. She snatched it right out of JJJ's hand. And while Jameson's saying, "Hey, you have to pay for that," she sees that Peter Parker took the pictures of the crime scene she was at earlier. So she tells Jameson, "Tell me where Peter Parker is, or I'll arrest you. These are photos from a crime scene." So now we're gonna cut back to Peter. And he's basically stopping by his apartment to let MJ know he's gonna be out for a while, because all the serial killer stuff going on. And he's also there to see how her audition went. But if you remember, MJ's still on the train right now, so when he gets there, nobody's home. And so with all that, we go to a Bugle employee who's handing out papers still. But he's interrupted by two people trying to rob him, holding him at gunpoint. But all of a sudden, an arrow shoots through one of the robber's hands, and he drops the gun. So now these guys are freaked out, rightfully so, because we see a shadowy figure rushing at them. Yet the robber says, "Smoke this guy." But then the same robber ends up getting an arrow in the head. The shadowy figure approaches closer to the paperboy and says, "You shouldn't be here in the night. You aren't strong enough." And he pulls the arrow out of the robber's head. So this man in the shadows is revealed to be none other than Kraven the Hunter. And he tells the man to go home. But before you go, who is this predator you speak of? So yeah, that's the end of this issue. I really liked how it ended, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. And I'll see you for issue 2.